With me to do this very interesting discussion is Mr. Martin Pebu, who is a juvenile lawyer, and Madam Comfort Asari, who is the Deputy Director at Social Welfare. Thank you for coming.
A pleasure.
At what point do we decide that bad behavior from a child constitutes a crime? Madam?
When a child commits an offense that is in conflict with the law, there are some offenses that we overlook. Maybe a child will just insult. But when it becomes a serious offense like stealing or causing harm, then that child comes into conflict with the law.
With the law. Then as children, I'm sure we all came into conflict with the law. Because, you know, there are stories of how somebody would sneak into the kitchen and pick a little meat and put in your mouth, or pour a bit of the milk in the fridge when mommy is not looking, and all of that. Don't those constitute as, you know, crimes too? I mean, it's stealing.
When it is on a high magnitude, I mean, when it is done in such a manner that it becomes a problem and everybody sees that that is becoming your behavior, that you are gradually becoming a thief, and no thief is accepted in the society. If you steal, the law will deal with you. It becomes an offense.
It becomes an offense.
Yes.
Okay.
If I may just add, but there's an age limit.
Okay.
So below the age of 12, nothing done by a child constitutes a crime. So if
no
a child,
matter how serious.
yes, once, even if the child opens the fridge, steals anything from it, once the child is below 12, it is not a crime.
What if he kills?
Certainly, still not a crime, because under our law, the Criminal and Other Offences Act 29, makes it very clear that criminal liability starts at age 12. Age 12. Yes, it's true. In other jurisdictions, considering the way crimes are being committed now, they've reduced it. But as it stands now in Ghana, it's still age 12. And that is the law.
That is what our law says.
Yes.
Okay. Madam, so who takes overrides responsibility for juveniles in conflict with the law? And I'm asking this because there's social welfare, your department. There's the Ministry of Gender, Social Protection, and, you know, there's that. And then there's the Ministry of Interior. So with all these bodies, if I want to know about juvenile justice in Ghana, where do I go?
Social welfare is now under the Ministry of Children, Gender and Social Protection. So when you mention the ministry, I mean, social welfare is involved. Okay. We are not separated from them because we work under them. And we have Ministry of Interior. Dealing with juveniles is not for one sector. We have the police also coming in. Right from the point of arrest or reporting to the police, it begins with either the police or an individual. Maybe the person is the victim of the delinquent behavior of the juvenile, or any other adults or person who sees that this juvenile has committed an offense and has the right to arrest that child and send that child to the police station. So a social welfare officer too can have the juvenile arrested, but then we cannot put the juvenile to the police station or take the juvenile to court on our own. It has to be decided by the police. It is the police who prepare the charge sheet and everything and send the case to court. So it is not the responsibility of one sector per se. We even have the Ministry of Interior also coming in when it comes to dealing with senior boys or senior girls.
Lawyer, so from what Madam is telling us, a lot of, you know, players when it comes to this issue. But then let's talk about policy direction. You know, if I have, you know, a major issue with the way juvenile justice is being administered in Ghana, if I have a serious issue, where do I take my issues to?
Wow. From the way the system is set up, there's little that can be done. I mean, to the extent that the law is couched in its current form, which is that it's an intersectorial manner of dealing with juveniles. So if you have an issue with the policy, it means that we would have to look at ways of starting or motivating the powers that be to look for a way to review the policy. And asking for a review, that would definitely involve getting the various ministries that are in charge to buy into the idea of a review. So the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection is involved because they maintain and control the remand homes. The Ministry of Interior, specifically the police, are also involved because usually, because the Attorney General gives them the fiat, the power to prosecute, so usually it's the police who prosecute the juveniles. And then we also have the judiciary because the cases are prosecuted in court. So if we want to do a review, it means that we would have to consult with all these organizations. But as it were, I don't think that there's anything intrinsically bad with having a multiplicity of institutions dealing with the juveniles. Right now, as the system stands, I don't think it's the multiplicity of the institutions that is the cause of a problem as such.
But it makes it makes responsibility a bit tricky, because whose sole responsibility, therefore, is it?
Okay.
Yes,
you wouldn't seek to make somebody solely responsible. You see, in justice administration, we have various components, but you see, just to even single out a few, the skill set of a judge is certainly different. So I'm looking at trying to fathom how we should combine the skill set of a judge with that of a social worker and then with the policy makers. So it should stay as it is now, that social welfare will be responsible for the juveniles whilst they are on remand, and then the Minister of Interior will take care of them during after a juvenile has been prosecuted and has been convicted and sentenced to committed to a correctional center. You see, so let the various agencies do their work very well, and then we would have very minimal challenges.
Okay. So in effect, we can say that these institutions overlap in the exercise of their duties, and ultimately the child benefits.
Yes, because if you take a scenario of a case, right from arrest, the police takes over. The police prosecutes the case in court. Then social welfare comes in. Social welfare serves as a panel member at the court. Social welfare is also serving at the court as a probation officer. And it's the probation officer's duty to write a social inquiry report and to recommend the treatment that will be good for the child. That will be in the best interest of that juvenile. So if that is done, and sentence is pronounced, whatever is decided on for the juvenile. If the juvenile is remanded at an institution, then that will also come under social welfare. If the juvenile is also committed to an institution, to a correctional institution, that will also come under social welfare. And whilst the juvenile is on remand, when it's time for the juvenile to go to court again, it is the responsibility of both the social welfare officer or the police to take the juvenile to court. And most often we see the police playing that role. And we have clinical psychologists also coming in to offer counseling to these juveniles.
Juveniles. So, Madam Comforter, sorry, what would you say our ultimate aim is in institutionalizing juveniles in conflict with the law? What are we hoping to do? Are we trying to punish them? Are we trying to reform them? What are we doing?
No, we just want them to reform.
Okay.
The whole system is targeting at reforming the delinquent behavior of the juvenile, but not to punish the juvenile. We are not in to punish juveniles. That is why we want them to go through certain counseling processes, and where they are committed to correctional institutions, they go through skills training for them to come out reformed and better to fit into society. It is not to punish them at all. So the treatment of a juvenile, even at court and at the police station, is totally different from how an adult will be handled. You are not to put handcuff on a juvenile when you arrest the juvenile and all that. Just to let the juvenile know that we are in as your friends to help you reform, to change for a better future.
Yeah, Previ. So from what Madam Comforter said, do you agree?
Basically, that's what she's put out there. That's the practice, as it were, in juvenile justice administration. Let me quickly add also that it is the case that institutionalization, that's the act of committing these juveniles to the correctional centers, is the last resort in the policy. The court is not quick to commit a juvenile if the juvenile comes from a supportive home. So either actual biological parents or relatives who are willing and able to control the juvenile. In the event that we have a strong supportive family, a juvenile is hardly committed to the correctional centers, except, let me add, the serious offenses, in which case, regardless of the family background, if the judge is minded to commit the juvenile, they will. And when we talk about serious offenses, we are talking about defilement, rape, murder, then aggravated assault, and narcotics. Yes, so except these ones, generally, the court is not quick to commit the juveniles. Yes, and actually, let me add one more. The sentences are quite short and beneficial to the juvenile. So let's say that if a child under 16 years commits an offense, which is not one of those serious ones that I've mentioned, usually the maximum sentence is 3 months. Yes, so if the child is less than 16 and steals, even no matter the amount of money, the maximum sentence is 3 months.
Still 3 months.
Yes, if the child is above 16 but below 18, then the maximum sentence is 6 months. 6 months. So you see that these provisions are made in order to help the juveniles in such a way that they have the second chance, because I'm sure you would reckon that a lot of us were quite deviant as children. So I'm sure the lawmaker thought it wise to make the sentences light so that the juveniles will get a second opportunity. And even for the very serious offenses, the rape, defilement, and the narcotics I've mentioned, the maximum sentence is 3 years. That's the maximum that a judge can sentence a juvenile to, so that even if a juvenile kills another juvenile or an adult, the maximum sentence is 3 years. Narcotics, whatever. As long as the person is a juvenile, the maximum sentence is 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Madam, so averagely, what are some of the cases that keep coming up? You know, being in the field, this is your specialty. What are some of the cases that what are the cases that we can say that are the normal cases that come to you?
The highest is stealing.
Stealing.
Stealing is number one. And then after stealing, we come to defilement. We have defilement also on the high. And then we have cases like causing harm, being in possession of harmful objects, and assault, as he has said, or fighting, and causing injury too. These are the major cases that come. Cases like narcotic and murder are very low. But with stealing, it is very high.
That's rampant. Madam, does the system appreciate that some of these kids themselves are victims? Does the system appreciate?
When you delve into the background of most of these juveniles, they either come from a poor home or they come from homes where they have no responsible person taking care of them. Parents have checked their responsibilities, or they are orphans. Most of them don't really have very good homes or parents or guardians taking care of them. So that is a major problem for the society and for Ghana, because most of these juveniles, when they are arrested, we have to have compassion for them, because to me, it is not their making, but it is the society or families that have made them so, looking at their background or considering their backgrounds. Because if they had very good homes or responsible parents, I don't think they will be committing such offenses. As you said, all of us, when we were young, one way or the other, we were stealing fish, meat, milk, bread, and all that. But then we don't grow with it to become thieves, going to the extent of entering somebody's room or breaking into somebody's shop or breaking into a vehicle to steal, or snatching a bag, stealing a mobile phone. No, that one becomes a more serious offense.
I'm back to this issue of the child being a victim himself. So what are we doing? How does the system deal with this? Because we know that some of them are victims themselves. So what are we doing about it?
A new child and family welfare policy is in the offing. We are drafting a new child and family welfare policy in which we are aiming at empowering and strengthening families and communities to be responsible for their members, especially their children, and to give them the maximum protection for them not to become victims or become wayward or delinquents in society. We want them to appreciate the fact that if they are responsible, they will, it will help the children or members of their families and communities to come out as responsible persons for all of us. But if they are irresponsible and they shirk their responsibilities, then these children will become liabilities for the society, and all of us will be at risk.
We would all suffer.
Yes, I always look at the ages of some of these criminals who are arrested in the newspapers, and I say that we need to do something, a preventive measure. So all of us need to embark on a proactive approach, some sort of program to make sure that some of these delinquent behaviors are prevented. We all need to rise up, and families need to be more responsible. Even extended family members should be responsible for their members who have lost their parents or guardians. If we leave them with the excuse that we don't have, then we shall have more criminals rising. But if we show some compassion and give them some bits of support, we are going to prevent some of these delinquent behaviors, because delinquency in the long run, they will become criminals.
Yeah.
If we don't stop it, they will grow up to become criminals. How come that 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds are murdering, they are involved in robbery, armed robbery, they are doing outrageous things, committing serious offenses? Where were they when they were 15, 16, 17 years? What were they doing? It means they were doing it, nobody saw them, or even though people saw them, they just kept quiet over them. They didn't take any action. They didn't show any interest in helping them reform. And there's one attitude about Ghanaians. When these juveniles commit offenses, or we see children becoming wayward, instead of us to show interest in them and help them to reform, we rather stigmatize them, give them names.
It's one of the
and we worsen the
issues.
situation,
Yeah.
and we shun them. You see, we make them feel very bad amongst us, and they'll join their gangs. They join their groups where they'll be accepted. So if that sense of belonging is not in their family, they'll move out to where they belong, where they've been accepted, and where they will love them. And when they go, that company surely will not help them, but it will rather strengthen their delinquent behavior.
You realize that in researching this topic, even data on the topic is is done by UNICEF or some other organization, or as a country, Ghana, we are not being very proactive. Are we being proactive?
Yes, on the matter of UNICEF sponsoring and all those things, yes, it's true. UNICEF does a lot to help in the sector, in juvenile justice administration and children generally. But it's also instructive to remember that Ghana is a member of the UN, and Ghana pays, each country pays some sums of money yearly. And I think part of it, so in a way, we pay our dues and then collect with another, with another hand. Yes, that apart, it's also the case that apart from what they sponsor, it's also the case that you have judges who adjudicate those matters. They are not funded as such by these international organizations, the police and the rest. So basically, it's a case of, now the world is a global village, so everybody helps and plays their part. So I would look at it in that context, these international organizations are playing a part, and then the government agencies are also playing a part, so that together we forge ahead. Yes.
So, speaking about the world being a global village, are we living up to the standards? Because there are UN standards, there are, convention rights on these issues. The laws that we have ratified, are we living up in terms of practicality? Because I think that on paper, our laws look very good.
That's correct.
The problem comes with it being,
implementation and the practice. Yes. To be honest, I mean, looking at the situation on the ground objectively, it is a case that we are not doing badly at all in terms of the law on paper, as you mentioned. Yes, our laws are quite beneficial to the children, but it's the practical challenges of implementation, you see. And well, that's the challenges we face in the juvenile justice sector are not peculiar. I mean, those are the problems generally of a developing country. You know, in health we have problems, we are constrained in transport, so it's a general problem.
It's everywhere.
Yes, basically, because you would reckon that in the law we are supposed to have correctional centers, senior and junior. As it stands now, apart from Accra, my understanding is that in the regions, they generally don't have senior correctional centers. Yes, but if you were to raise this, then another development practitioner also raised the issue that there are people in Bunkuru Yoyo who don't have water. So then the question is, should we spend more money on children in conflict with the law, or the general populace who haven't had the misfortune of being in conflict with the law? That's quite tricky and delicate, and I'm sure I'm not in a position to you know, decide for the country. But then we need to do something to improve. You know, it's a gradual process. It's not a one-day event. So as we reckon that, we need to gradually improve the system.
Improve the system.
Yes.
We are still discussing juvenile justice, children in conflict with the law. It's a very interesting topic, but it has so many dimensions. We are just about getting started. Don't go anywhere. Quick commercial break. We'll be right back.